Joe Biden, demagogue, propagandist, fundamental transformation of America, is now the white knight who's going to defend democracy. He's destroying democracy, and so is his party. That is constitutional republicanism. In America today, our founding history is under assault. Our families and faiths are being degraded. Individualism has been substituted for groupism. Colorblindness is now racist. Capitalism and prosperity are being devoured by economic socialism and climate change fanaticism. Classrooms have become indoctrination mills for racism, segregation, bigotry, anti-Semitism, and sexual perversion. And teachers' unions are hostile to parental involvement in critical decisions about the health and welfare of their children. In America, Joe Biden's America, free speech and academic freedom are shrinking. The police state is growing, as is monitoring and spying on citizens. The government is banning and regulating more and more household products, from the incandescent light bulb to dishwashers, while creating shortages and driving up costs of others. Crime is out of control on our streets, public transportation, and schools, while police budgets are slashed and many prosecutors and judges coddle violent criminals. Our borders are wide open to millions of foreigners who seek entry into this country, as drug and criminal cartels ship killer drugs into our country by the tons and brutalize migrants by using them as indentured servants and sex slaves. And the list goes on. The Democrat Party is responsible for most of this and much more. It seeks to permanently control our governmental institutions, just as it dominates our cultural entities, from the media to academia, from entertainment to science. It seeks to delegitimize and eviscerate the Constitution, including the Bill of Rights, the Electoral College, the Supreme Court, separation of powers, and so forth, which obstructs its ideological designs. It abuses the rule of law by targeting its political opponents for harassment, investigation, and prostitution. That is, prosecution. And in the end, it seeks to imprison them. On October 30, 2008, when Barack Obama shouted to a crowd, "We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America," he wasn't kidding. On May 14, 2008, when Michelle Obama pronounced that we're going to have to change our conversation, we're going to have to change our traditions, our history, we're going to have to move into a different place as a nation, she meant it. The Obamas are not alone among Democrat Party apparatchiks in their contempt for this country. In fact, it is the rare top Democrat Party politician who praises America and does it sincerely. Democrat Party is a party that is built on the demands and propaganda of revolutionaries, demagogues, and malcontents. Has a horrifying history of supporting the most contemptible causes, including slavery, segregation, the Klan, eugenics, even lynchings. Indeed, almost from the start, the Democrat Party rejected the principles and values of the American experiment. Today, it is the home of another anti-American movement, American Marxism, with its various ideological appendages. The Democrat Party ruling class, elites, and activists are united in this revolution. If you want to fundamentally transform something, as I've said repeatedly, then you don't love it. You don't like it. You don't want it. And when you want to fundamentally transform America, that means you're anti-constitutional republicanism. In a March 2023 speech to the Canadian Parliament, Biden concluded his remarks aimed mostly at further government-to-government space exploration with the Canadian government. He said, "Ladies and gentlemen, we're living in an age of possibilities. Xi Jinping asked me, in the Tibetan Plateau, could I define America? And I could have said the same thing if he asked about Canada. I said, yes, one word. And I mean it, one word, possibilities." Biden wasn't talking about the possibilities of America. He was talking about the possibilities of government. Biden rules as an autocrat. Biden has said that he wants his legacy to be as bigger or bigger than Franklin Roosevelt's, who did in fact radically change the nature of the federal government and its relationship with the citizen. And Biden is being urged to continue the transformation of America away from the founding ideals toward the Americanized Marxism model. There's no question about it. Biden's conduct on the Senate Judiciary Committee and the viciousness and dishonesty of his attacks on conservative nominees was appalling. Just as he attacks MAGA and Trump. Same tactics, same character assassination. Biden always saw himself as presidential timber when most did not. He lies and deceit, including his habitual plagiarism, including stealing words and phrases of speeches by Robert Kennedy and Neil Kinnock, then the British Labour Party leader, as well as his blatant lies about his academic record, helped derail his previous embryonic presidential campaigns. And today, his lack of character, cringeworthy outbursts, and obvious stage 5 dementia, of which there are 7 stages, are all but ignored or dismissed. That's right. And there's more when it comes to Biden. That is the opening introduction from The Democrat Party Hates America. The Democrat Party should be called the Autocratic Party. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Joe Biden has taken an oath repeatedly to uphold the Constitution of the United States. As a senator, as a vice president, as a president. The Constitution of the United States, in excruciating detail, creates a government that is nothing like a democracy. It creates a republic. It's not a parliament like Italy or Israel or Britain or most of Europe. It is a constitutional republic, the only kind on the face of the earth, the only kind there's ever been on the face of the earth. It's called the American experiment. You see, the fact of the matter is, the framers of our Constitution learned from these so-called democracies and parliamentary systems, and they wanted nothing to do with them. They wanted to eliminate government. And so they turned to Montesquieu, who in very, very broad terms told them what to do. A judiciary, he said, a legislative and an executive. Powers divided. They're competing against each other. They're checking each other. It's called separation of powers. The president, like prime ministers around the world, is not chosen from a political party that wins a plurality of the vote. That's not our system. We don't have direct elections for president because the framers were brilliant. They understood factionalism, and they understood that the cities would control the national government, and they understood that the rest of the country would not join into such a compact, that the people who grow the food, the people who mine the coal and the aluminum and the steel, that the people who drill for oil and natural gas, in other words, the people who are not of the city, they need to have representation too. So Joe Biden hates the Electoral College, as does his party. They want to destroy it so 11 blue states control our government forever. They want to add D.C. and Puerto Rico to the U.S. Senate as states. Not because they give a damn about D.C. or Puerto Rico, but that would add 4 permanent Democrats to the Senate, so the Republicans can never, ever have a majority in the Senate. They sought to get rid of the filibuster rule. Why? Not because they believe in democracy. It's the opposite. So they can ram through legislation that can never be reversed. They hate the Supreme Court unless the Supreme Court does what it says. So they threaten Supreme Court members, Clarence Thomas, above all others. They try to destroy his character with phony media organizations, phony investigations, phony ethics issues. Because if they were serious, Sotomayor would be impeached tomorrow. She's the biggest crook on the Supreme Court. They keep flirting with packing the court. FDR, the Democrats of today. But Mark, Joe Biden said no. Joe Biden has defied the Supreme Court repeatedly, whether it was the student loans or whether it was imposing price controls on landlords during the pandemic. The president doesn't have the authority to do either. He defied 2 Supreme Court rulings, and he doesn't give a damn. Mr. Democracy. They want to nationalize our voting system, to turn the voting system into the California's voting system. So we have nothing but super majority Congresses filled with Democrats. So we could never win the presidency, we could never win the House, we could never win the Senate. It is the Californiazation of the United States. No voter ID, voter harvesting, no signature requirements, and on and on and on. And they say this promotes voting. They don't believe in promoting voting. They believe in promoting power, their power. They've turned the 14th Amendment, that was a tremendous amendment that had as its purpose to convey equal rights and due process on the newly freed black slaves. And what do? They turn it around, Section 3, to try and prevent people from voting for whom they wish. To knock a presidential candidate off a ballot. We've never seen this before, ever. And then there's Section 4 that'll come up in a couple of weeks that I've talked about before of the 14th Amendment, where they claim, and Biden says yes, that Joe Biden has the unilateral dictatorial right to raise taxes, to increase the debt, and to increase spending in violation of the core function of the House and Congress under Article 1, if Congress doesn't do what he wants it to do. Joe Biden, who's done more to try and squelch your freedom of speech and communication than any president since Woodrow Wilson. Another racist and segregationist. 2 federal courts have so ruled. The Supreme Court has said, well, we want to take a look at this. The FBI, the DHS, the other agencies under the Biden regime, threatening, pressuring, cajoling social media to advance their agendas, whether it's the vaccine, whether it's a cover-up on the Hunter Biden tape, laptop, and all the rest of it. We have Democrat members of the House who have put pressure on Comcast and Verizon and others to deplatform Fox, Newsmax, and OAN, among others. Democracy, they say. We have Democrat-controlled courts in New York and Wisconsin that, as I speak, are remaking the congressional boundaries in those states. I thought that was supposed to happen every 10 years. No, it has to happen before this election. Even though the Constitution gives that power to the state legislature. Oh, democracy, America. Democracy. Joe Biden, who threw in with Eastland and Stennis, 2 racist segregationists when he became a senator. Joe Biden, who forcefully opposed, was one of the leaders in opposition to integrating our public schools. Joe Biden, who praised Eastland, who praised Stennis, who praised Talmadge of Georgia, another racist, who praised Robert Byrd, one of the men who filibustered the 1964 Civil Rights Act, as his mentor, who praised George Wallace when he was campaigning in the South in 1987. That George Wallace. Mr. Democracy.